Hey there, my friends. Happy Friday Eve day to everybody. You guys, I feel like it's been a minute since I was here, and I feel like the last couple of weeks in my life have lasted 6 months. So I'm so glad to be here with you today. Give me 1 second. I'm going to check my tech. My iPad died, so I'm on my phone. I just want to make sure that we are actually live, at least in our Facebook group. Yes, we are. Perfect. Okay, I see us. And as you know, you guys know how I do this if you've been with me for any length of time. Here on my laptop, I'm using StreamYard. So I've got Facebook, my business page, my group, and my YouTube channel all right here. If you're coming to us through YouTube, go ahead and smash the subscribe button so you never miss one of my training videos every single week. And if you're coming to us through Facebook and you haven't already done this, go to StreamYard, all one word, streamandYard.com/Facebook, and give permission for us to see your name on StreamYard. Otherwise, it just says Facebook user, and then we can't shout you out, and it feels like there's a disconnect there. So go ahead and go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and give permission for us to see that. All right, today, you guys, and I know you're excited about this because you've told me all week ever since we announced this. My guest expert is my friend, Jess Frischolz. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She is a copywriter and an expert when it comes to storytelling in your copy. And she's going to help us write emails that are going to knock the socks off of our subscribers and make them super happy to see our names appearing in their inbox. And you know how crowded everybody's inboxes are these days. So Jess is going to give you some of those edges, some of those competitive things you can do to have that competitive edge. But just in case this is the first time we've ever met and you're wondering who the heck I am Tracy Beavers. I am an award-winning business and sales coach with over 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, and business growth. And I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs just like you to get visible so people know who you are, what you do, who you serve, and how they can hire you to help you grow your email list and get that consistent monthly income that you have been wanting from day one of starting your entrepreneurial journey. And I don't know what's going on with my hair. I've got a hair over here that wants to just, hang out in my mouth, which is really convenient when you're going live and doing a training. As we go along, y'all know how we do this. Pop your questions and comments into the chat for us. And Jess and I will go through the training for you, and then we will answer all of your questions at the end. Without further waiting, let me introduce you to Jess. She is a copywriter, a storyteller, and a self-proclaimed nature nerd. I love that. She believes in the power of connection in all areas of her life. And I love that even more because y'all know I'm all about authentic connection. And when it comes to creating that connection to grow her business, she does this through engaging and story-driven emails. From fostering a safe place where her students feel heard, seen, and understood during her years as a teacher, to adopting a more mindful, intentional mindset through quiet nature hikes and daily yoga, to writing nurture emails that allow all of us entrepreneurs to relate, learn, and grow through storytelling. Creating a space for connection is a powerful tool she wholeheartedly believes in. Now y'all can see why we are friends. Jess says that writing can seem very scary at first. And I know this because Jess, you're right. I hear this from my students and my clients. It can feel very scary, but she works to empower us to start telling our stories. She helps us realize we all have valuable and meaningful moments in our lives that are perfect for sharing in our emails, no matter how boring they may seem, right? Because sometimes the boring stuff is the best stuff. So without further waiting, Jess, is there anything that I forgot in that intro? I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here as well. It's been a long time coming. I was telling Tracy that before, like we've been so excited for this for months. And so I'm so happy that it's finally the day I get to share all of my juicy knowledge and insights with you all. That intro was just chef's kiss. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Good.
But I mean, just to further emphasize, really, it for me and for you, and I know for many of us in this group, it comes down to connection.
Yeah.
And in my previous years as a teacher, and just with myself and the way that I like to kind of show up for others, it always comes down to connection. Whenever I think about it, whenever I reflect on it, I'm just like, it's all connection.
It is.
And especially nowadays, like the brands, the personal brands, the companies, the service providers, no matter what you're doing, the ones that take that time to connect are going to be the ones that make it out of this crazy time that we're in. So
I'm a believer. Absolutely. Okay, so I've got a lot of questions, and I know our audience does too. So we're just going to kind of dive right into everything. Tell us, storytelling is the way you lead with your copy, and so would you explain to us why is it so important to use storytelling as the foundation for writing our emails and our copy versus any other thing that we might focus on?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And also, before I even get started, there's a reason why I like writing, because I have the chance to stop and think and let it stew. But when I'm talking live, I am like a choo-choo train that is ready to just go off the tracks and just go off on tangents and whatnot. So like, Tracy, full permission to cut me off and just be like, Jess, like reel it in, like let's go. Full permission.
Only because we don't want to keep our audience here for for all day. So
and I could talk all day. So like,
I could too.
Full permission to tell me like, Jess, let's reel it in here.
I'll just wrap it up.
Exactly. So yeah, storytelling, the more I've done it for clients, the more I do it for myself, the more that I kind of engross myself in other people's copy that do it.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons why I've kind of come to realize that like this really is the way to go. So first and foremost, we as humans were wired for story. There's so much study that's been done on that. It's kind of like confirmed every time that you think about a moment and you're like, oh, I read that in a story, or I heard this story about blah, blah, blah. Like we're wired for story. We make sense of the world around us because of story. It helps us remember important facts or important knowledge. Like nobody remembers the list of bullets that they randomly saw in a newspaper from like the 90s. But they're going to remember stories that kind of include those things in there. So that's really the first thing, is like, we're already kind of wired for that, right?
Right.
Stories allow people to put themselves in your shoes or in the shoes of somebody that you've helped through your services. Right. So they can then connect with that emotion, the feeling. They can start to picture themselves in that moment. They can start to see, oh, I can visualize how whatever it is that you're doing would benefit them. So it makes it easier to start to form that like personal connection with that. It creates space for conversation, because when you start to share things, people want to pitch in. And I have a great example of that. I'll wait for later though, but it's very recent and it was so fun. But the opening the door, with your stories, opening the door for that conversation, for that safe space, it helps people feel seen and heard and understood, right? Which selfishly then helps you figure out the things that you need to be touching on and writing about, because you're getting that inside knowledge directly from the people you want to serve. So like it helps you too. Your stories are going to help build trust and authority. Or you might hear like know, like, and trust. Because think about like every time you share a moment or something you experienced or a memory or a perspective that you have on something or an insight or a lesson that you learned, any of these kinds of things. You're giving them kind of like a behind the scenes knowledge, or like that feeling like, oh, you're my friend, I'm going to tell you things. But every time you do that, you're also showing them that like, I know, like I have the knowledge, or I know how to do something because I experienced it. Or I know how to do this and I know how to help you because look, I helped somebody else. So it's also helping build up that trust and authority.
Right. And that's super important for those sales conversions, that know, like, and trust factor.
Absolutely.
I want to go back really quick to that first, one of the things you just said about it helps people feel seen, heard, and validated. Something that I heard Oprah say 1,000,000 years ago. She said, the thing, what people want, what human beings want most in this world is to be seen, heard, and validated. And that has stuck with me throughout my career, because it is so true. When she said that, I was like, that is so true. And so when you said that, immediately I was going back to that Oprah statement. So yeah, totally. I'm with you.
And the fact that you remember that, like, there was probably some sort of moment or something that she had shared that kind of stuck with that. And you're thinking about that now still years later, right?
Right. And then in the beginning, we were talking about how we were wired for story. Another example of this I heard was that even going back to caveman times, we learned through story written on the wall in pictures.
Right.
Like, this is the animal that will eat you, or this is this is how you make a bow and arrow.
It was survival, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This animal, we eat this animal, that animal eats us. Like,
right.
It was survival. It was,
sure.
Again, like how to make sense of the world around them, like how to start deciding like what is danger, what is safe, who can I trust, who's out to get me. It's all through that story, right? I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I have another one too, though, because
yes,
this is not something that's thought about a lot, I think, but it also helps create a healthy email list. And what I mean by that is, as you start sharing more stories, it's very likely that there are people who might say, oh, wait, I don't actually feel aligned with this person anymore. And if they don't feel aligned, they might decide to leave.
Right.
And if they do decide to leave, it's actually a good thing, because they are not somebody who is likely to be that ideal client anyway, or not somebody who would likely buy your services or your offers or anything. Right. So I love talking about that too, because a lot of people see unsubscribes as a negative.
It can hurt you. I mean, it kind of hurts your heart a little bit.
Every time it happens, I do feel I feel a little sad, bye.
Well, and then I go through the list and I'm like, what? And that person's on it. I'm like,
I know. You left too? Why did you leave? I thought we were cool.
I thought we were friends. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but what you're saying is correct. We want to attract as much as we repel. Because in my alumni membership, the live Q&A call, we were talking about this morning, about how I would much rather my clients and students have a list of quality people than just numbers of people that have no intention of ever making an actual connection with you.
Exactly.
So what you said is so important.
Yeah. And to kind of play on that too, your stories are going to be, in some cases, it's going to be the one thing that truly differentiates you from your competition. Because as much as I would love to be the only story-driven, email-obsessed copywriter, I know there's more of us. Right. As much as you'd love to be the only biz coach that focuses on using Facebook groups and building that connection, there's more of you.
Oh yeah, there's one of us on every corner.
Exactly. And so if we were only to focus on those kinds of things when we were talking about what we do, oh yeah, well I talk about story and I talk about email and this and that, if that bulleted list of things I do could easily describe any of the other people, how is that going to help somebody choose me over somebody else?
Right.
So in my stories, for example, I talk a lot about nature and hiking, and like you mentioned in the intro, my hikes are silent hikes. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts when I'm hiking. I literally allow my brain to do its thing, and it's crazy sometimes. But also, that's when some of this juicy stuff happens.
Yeah.
And it's so the people on my list know that I'm a hiker, and that's where some of this stuff comes from. They know I like animals, and they know that I have the email I sent this morning was about onions.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It does set you apart. Tell me, one of the things that I teach my clients and students is to always be ready with a call to action, whether it's in your social media copy or in your emails. And so one of the things that I know my audience struggles with, what we're talking about, is so I'm telling the story about onions, or I'm telling a story about my mismatch. One of my emails a week or so ago was about how I was sitting in the kitchen writing the email in my mismatched pajamas that have no business going out in public because some of them have holes and none of it goes together. So how do I connect that with a call to action about what I really want them to do? How do we make that transition?
That's a great question. And that is such a struggle. And I'm going to admit, there are times when I'm even sitting there and I'm like, how was I even going to do this?
Where was I going with the onion?
Exactly. There was a reason I talked about onions. Why though? Right. So when you sit down and write an email, there's usually going to be one of two things that you have in your mind. It might be the CTA, So it might be, do you want them to click on the link to go to your newest blog or listen to your newest podcast? Do you want them to book a one-on-one call with you? Do you want them to head to your sales page and check out, your latest offer that's on promo right now? Like that CTA is in your head and you're like, okay,
yep.
How am I going to find a story that fits with this seamlessly?
Right.
It doesn't always happen seamlessly, but it does happen. So what I like to do sometimes, but you know what? You can own it and just make it work. You can be like, I don't know what the point was, but you know what? I'm really excited about this, so go check it out. But
I've done that before. I've been like, probably said something like, I don't know why I just told you about my pajamas. It has nothing to do with what I wanted to tell you about today. So let me get to the point.
But honestly, if you own that humanness, it works.
Yeah.
Right. But what I like to do is try to uncover what it is that they're going to be experiencing when they click on your CTA, right? On your link. Not like, oh, well, duh, Jess, they're going to go read my blog post, but like, what is that blog post about? Or what are they going to gain from booking a one-on-one call with you? So how is it going to benefit them? How is it going to make their life better or their biz better? What value are they going to get, right? So when you start to pull in those deeper emotions, those feelings, whatever the transformation is that they're going to get by clicking and doing that next step, that's going to be what you use to find a story that relates.
Okay.
And so that's how, at least that's how I think. I mean, there's no one way to approach any of this.
No,
this is how it works for me. So
I like that formula of, because I was thinking we would find the story and then try to make the CTA fit. But what you're saying is think about the end goal and how you can reverse engineer to the story.
You can do both. So I'll explain the other one in a second. So for example, in the past, I had written a blog post about how to write a good hook. Right. And so I knew that people have frustrations in not knowing how to draw readers in from that very first line. Because if you could have the best story or the best email, and you know that by the time they get to that link, you're about to provide them with like the best thing that they ever could click on and do, right?
Right.
But if they're not compelled to keep reading, it doesn't matter because they're never going to get to that point. So I was thinking about, okay, I have this awesome post that I know is going to be helpful because I've got different examples and approaches and all sorts of things that I know are going to be helpful for people. So thinking about those frustrations, then I kind of went backwards, and I also related it to like low attention span. I pulled in goldfish in this one because they say goldfish have, bigger attention spans. So it's like, it's starting in that one. I was like, I know what the frustrations are. So how am I going to go backwards and figure out a story to deal with that? But then, like you mentioned, sometimes, and this is what happens to me more so, honestly, is I'm like, I have this random story, or I have this awesome thing I want to share with the world, and I need to figure out how I'm going to even make this make any sort of sense.
Right.
So, but again, what I'll do is I'll start with those deeper feelings. So what were the feelings? What were the emotions? What was that deeper lesson that I learned? What kind of transformation took place? And so once I start to kind of dig into those things, then I can, again, go and figure out like, okay, I have, this blog post that touches on those feelings, or I, wrote XYZ about whatever. So it kind of ends up being very similar either way, because for me, it's always connecting on that, just like that deeper underlying thing. So like for this one, for example, I had gone to a birthday party, where the only person I knew was my friend who was hosting and her husband.
Okay.
So I'm like, great, the two people I know are going to be busy, and I know nobody else.
Right.
But I want to support them because it's my friend, and I love her dearly, but I'm also like an introvert. I get like social anxiety. I'm going to walk into a room where I know nobody. And so I thought about the emotions that I felt. I was nervous, but then her son greeted me in the driveway, and I was like, oh, okay, now I feel a little bit of relief.
Nice.
And then he told me like, oh, you can just walk in. And I'm like, okay, now I know the next step. I know what to do. I don't have to find people. So I was like, okay, now I have expectations. I walked in the door. I looked around nervously. My friend came up and was like, Jess. And so now I felt,
Nice.
comfort. I felt safety.
Right.
And so I went through all of these things that I felt and said, duh, this is what happens when you write a welcome sequence.
Because it is.
Right? It is. Like the moment somebody opts into your welcome sequence, they've just accepted your invitation to your invitation to your party.
Exactly.
So if you just ghost them, they're going to be like, what the heck? I was excited for this party. But, that first email sets the expectations. He told me to go in. I was like, I know what to do. You get greeted. You start to feel more comfortable and you start to understand what's going on as the sequence goes on. And I was like, oh my gosh, and in that case, I actually decided to write a blog about that because I had this experience and I wanted to use the story.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is, I'm seeing comments in the light bulbs are going off. Jill just threw a light bulb emoji into the chat.
I'm intentionally not on the Facebook right now because I'm like, don't get distracted, Jess. Don't do it.
I know it's tough. Let's answer this question for people because I know this is also on their mind. They feel like their life is boring. Their stories are going to be boring. It's got to have, because I hear this too. People think that everything we do has to have sparklers and fireworks attached to it. And it's got to be the biggest, hugest, most magnanimous thing that anybody's ever seen ever in their whole life. And then we put so much pressure on ourselves, we end up doing nothing. And so how would you help somebody in my audience overcome that feeling of, but Jess, I'm Tracy Beavers and I live in Little Rock and I'm a business coach and, I have a dog and not much happens around here because I work from home and my car leaves the house once a week to go to the chiropractor and I wear the same yoga pants every day, although y'all don't know it because you don't see me from here to here. And you know what I mean? It's like, I'm looking around going, this is not an exciting place. So what do I do?
Understand. I totally get that. So the good news is all of those boring things are the things people actually want to hear about.
Okay.
People don't want.
Say that again.
Those boring things, those things that are normal, everyday things, those are the things that people actually want to hear about.
Okay.
They do. They don't want to hear these huge, grandiose, sparkling, glittery tales about, all these just huge things because they're not relatable.
Yes, you hit it. Yes. You're so.
Mic drop. I'm done. Bye.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jill, I know Jill's listening, my assistant, she's so amazing. We need a couple of quote graphics from Jess. The one about you want to be relatable and the boring stuff is what people want to hear. And then we're going to post those out and tag you on those because you're so right. I hope everybody heard that. Those boring things. Yeah, Jill just put it in the chat. Those boring things are the things that people actually want to hear. Mm-hmm. Y'all are hearing this from Jess. She is a successful copywriter using story. You're not hearing it from me who tried it once and it was successful. You're hearing it from somebody that does this for her clients and has seen results.
I'll give you examples.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So okay. See, now I'm getting misfiring because I'm just so excited. I'm like, where do I start? So an example from a past email is something that I experienced. So I experienced lots of struggle with confidence. The fact that I'm even giving you coherent sentences right now is just a miracle. But what I was able to do in that email was I was able to relate it to my past as a teacher.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because as entrepreneurs, we're often putting ourselves in those beginner shoes again.
Yeah.
And we forget that it's not going to be easy the very first time we start something, because when we've done something for so long, we're like, oh, I'm so good at this. This is what I know. For teaching, I went to school for that. I spent over half of my life either studying it or doing it. Yep. And so when I decided to step out of that and go into entrepreneurship and copywriting, I was like, man, I suck at this. Did I actually suck? No.
Exactly. Yes. So because I felt the same way. I am a highly intelligent, well-educated woman. Mm-hmm. And I left a very successful corporate career and started this. And I was like, I know I'm not an idiot, but the learning curve was tremendous.
Right. But then so what we have to do though is put yourself back in those beginner shoes of when you started that corporate position or when I started teaching. Right. So that's what I wrote about. So I wrote about, as a teacher, my first year was a struggle. My second year was not great, but I left teaching after 9 years. But by that 9th year, I could have done it with my eyes closed. Like I was in the groove. I knew what I was doing. I was damn good at it. Right. And so I was able to create that, I was able to use that past story of my teaching experience to relate to confidence now and being okay being a beginner again, because really entrepreneurship is just going to be a bunch of learning no matter what we're doing, right? So that was like a deeper, more like emotional connected one.
Right.
The one I want to really share with you though, because it literally just happened and I'm like obsessed with how this went and it just further drives in my point. So this was not actually an email. This was a LinkedIn post. However, I will say a lot of what I teach and what I talk about and what I do, it does apply.
Yeah, for sure.
Outside of email, right?
Yeah, for sure. Because you can take a social media post and you can craft an email with it. Or you can take what you put in your email and craft a social media post. So absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm absolutely going to be taking my findings from this and making an email out of it in a couple of weeks. Like, this is happening. So
nice.
You think your stories are too boring, right? I literally wrote a LinkedIn post about how I make spelling mistakes when I type.
Okay.
That's boring. Why would I do that? Right?
Right.
Now, everybody experiences it. I know we do. I don't care how good at typing you are. You have spelling mistakes. And I experienced a moment. I started the post. I'm not even kidding you. On LinkedIn, I started my post as went to write, start sharing, wrote sharding. And now I'm sitting here in my living room alone laughing because apparently I'm 12 and poop is funny. That's how I started my post.
Poop is always funny. Sorry.
Poop is always funny.
Poop is always funny. That's funny and relatable.
Right. Now, had I started that post though with like, I hate making typos. Do you make typos too? Like, no. But sharing that moment, I had no like motive behind that. I didn't link the my opt-in to join my email list. I didn't say book a call with me. My CTA was simply, I know you do it too, so tell me the mistakes that you make.
Yep.
And that post to date has the highest engagement out of any of my posts, which further proves the point to me that people want relatable.
Yeah.
Right? They want to feel like they're part of something.
Mm-hmm. And by connection.
We connected over poop and like crazy typos and inappropriate things, and it was great. It was great.
That's awesome.
So I love that story though, because it's like, and that literally just happened. I believe it was last week. So I'm just like, that was amazing. I wrote a post, I was starting, and now we're all connecting over poop.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know you brought a really cool free gift for everybody in my audience. I know Jill's going to pop the link to it in the comments for us, but tell us about it, because I want everybody to go grab it.
Yeah. So I know a lot of what I'm talking about. It's a lot to take in. So I have a freebie that goes through a bunch of actionable steps from creating a story bank all the way through, kind of what we touched on with how do you pivot from story to CTA, little reminders. There's like little areas to do some work, like little homework. And it's all together in one little fun-sized guide for you. So yeah, that'll kind of takes all of this and sums it up into a guide / worksheet type thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the past teacher in me. I don't know. Yeah. Like, I'm not just going to tell you what to do. I'm going to make you do it.
Well, I like that. Having the, because you can show people like, yes, walking them through and demonstrating to them and literally kind of guiding them. That's the way that I coach and teach. And that's the way I learn best also. So I love that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let me check the comments really fast to see if anybody has any questions. If y'all have questions, now is the time to ask them. Oh my gosh, everybody. Carrie Gilliland is here. She says, I'm loving this. This is so good. Such a much needed topic. Linda and Valerie and Jill and Lori are here. And it says, somebody commented, but it says Facebook user. I can't see your name, but that's okay. All right. Oh, Lori asks, so a story about me walking to the mailbox is what people want to hear?
But was it just walking to the mailbox?
Probably not, Lori. What happened to you on the way to the mailbox?
What did you think about? What was going on around you, right?
Did you walk into a spider web on the way to the mailbox? That would get my attention.
I mean, like I wrote a story about saving a bee from a black widow. It actually happened.
Wow, you actually did?
I did.
Two things that could potentially kill you, and you went in?
Well, I had my hiking pole. I was on a hike.
Oh my God.
So I had my hiking pole and I like scooted the bumblebee away. I heard the buzzing and I was like, what is that noise? And I finally like stopped and I looked around and I was like, I found it. And so I like scooted the bumblebee out of the web and then it kind of like struggled and I was like, it's dying. And then it like flew away and I was like, ah. But it was an email. I wrote an email about it.
And then the Black Widow was yelling expletives at you and giving you the middle leg or whatever.
I mean, out of all 8 of those legs, I'm sure it gave me the middle one.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. Y'all, here, first of all, what I want you to do, you guys, is go grab Jess's guide, find her on Facebook, connect with her. Her name on Facebook is Jess Lynn, Lynn. She is one of my friends. If you want to look at my friends list, you can find her there. You can also find her in my free Facebook group, which is what I want you to do if you are not a member of our Facebook group. It's called Be a Confident Entrepreneur, Get Visible, and Grow Your Income. We have over 2,000 entrepreneurs. We have experts in every topic you can imagine because, yes, I'm a business and sales coach, and I know a lot of things about building a business, but there are some things that I'm not going to touch. Storytelling and copywriting. Jess is the expert. That's why I brought her in. We've got experts in YouTube channels, in podcasting, in accounting, in whatever it is you're wanting and you need help with. You are welcome in my group to come in and ask for help, and you can promote your offers anytime. Now, thankfully, everybody in the group is super kind and cool and understands not to be a spammy spammerson, but everybody is allowed to promote anything they have going on anytime. And you know that being visible in Facebook groups is a strategy that I teach. It is that important. It will help you grow your business because you're going to meet not only are you going to get the support you need as an entrepreneur, but you're going to meet people that could be your next referral source, your next collaboration partner, your next podcast guest spot or podcast guest to come onto your show. Be here live with me every Thursday at 11:30 Central. So you don't miss a single one of these awesome trainings. Sometimes it'll be me solo bringing you a training. Other times where I'm going to bring a guest expert like Jess to teach on something that I know a little bit about, but they know a lot about and can really give you the deep dive. And then don't forget, once a month, we have the Entrepreneurial Inspiration Interviews where I'm going to interview somebody just like you about their entrepreneurial journey. And we're going to talk and have an honest discussion. I said this morning in my alumni membership group on our live call. We do not have enough honest and transparent discussions about the journey of entrepreneurship. All we see is somebody that had a 5-figure launch the first time out of the gate, or they're having a 6-figure year, or they've got 100,000 people following on Instagram. What we don't talk about enough is they started at 0. And how did it feel when they first launched and they had just a few people join their list? But then how did it feel when they did it again and they had more people joining? And so the more we have those conversations and the more we shore each other up, I believe the more successful we are all going to be. So share these trainings, pop into my Facebook group, tell your friends about it. And Jess, I just want to thank you so much for taking out time to be with us here today. The comments are going crazy. Everybody is so excited about all this. Lori said, she almost tripped on a pine cone yesterday. Well, Lori, there you go. There you go. Oh my gosh, that's so great.
So I can relate to that because when I was hiking, I had a bunch of acorns that were hidden by leaves and I literally almost just lost it. So like tripping on small objects is totally possible. I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
All right, my friends, remember, you hear me say this all the time. Don't go it alone. Being an entrepreneur is freaking hard. Some days everybody wants to buy what you're selling and other days nobody can remember your name. And if you think you're alone, you are absolutely not. We all feel that way, no matter if we're just starting out or we've been in business for several years and we have 5-figure months. We all feel that way. So I want you to have a great balance of the week and weekend. And remember, when one of us rises, we all rise. So that is why I always want you to keep cheering each other on. And next week is Thanksgiving here in the States, so I will not be here live, but we will be back in December with another great lineup of people. And if there's something that you want to hear, you want to learn more about, you want me to talk about, you want me to find a guest expert for, send me an email and tell me that, because I craft these things for you guys. And it's important that I am sending you the information that you need. All right, my friends. Jess, thanks again so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I got to spill all my insight on you guys. And I'll go hang out in the comments for a bit too. So if you guys have any questions, like, I'll be here, ask away. I've got lots to share.
I love it. If you're catching this on replay and you have a question for Jess, tag her in the comments and she'll swoop right in and answer it.
I'll get there.
All right, my friends. I will see you guys in not next week, but the week after.